Good morning and welcome to the July 26, 2018 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the secretary. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item number 1, the approval of the May 24th, 2018 and July 5th, 2018 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes is now open. Kurt made the motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 24th and July 5th. Second. And Mike seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing on item number 2 is now open.
Item number 2 is 18 VA 007, a variance request to reduce the side yard setback that abuts the street for an accessory garage from 35 feet to 15 feet. Property is located at 830 Lemon Street. Take you through some slides. Area zoned medium density residential district. This is a corner lot on Lemon Avenue and Van Buren Street. Aerial showing there was an existing garage located on the property. The applicant had demolished that garage and is proposing to rebuild within the same footprint. The garage had a legal non-conforming 15-foot side yard setback that abuts a street. The front yard on this one is Lemon Avenue. You could have one front yard. The other front yard or Van Buren Street would be a side yard that abuts a street. So for a detached accessory garage, it's a 35-foot minimum required setback. Future land use is urban neighborhood, and here's showing the major street plan, no collectors or arterial streets. Elevation of the proposed garage, and then site plan showing a little different shaped garage that they're proposing to put in. It meets all of the land area requirements other than the 35-foot setback. They can't meet that 35-foot setback in the rear yard. However, what they could do is provide a 20-foot setback, which is typically what we have with an attached garage. So the 20 feet is, we tried 18 before, but we would have trucks hanging over the edge of the property line into the sidewalk. So 20 has been the minimum that we've required. So staff is supporting a variance to reduce the side yard setback that abuts the street from 35 feet to 20 feet because that is provides that parking apron that would be needed in front of the garage without encroaching into the right-of-way. Special condition on this is that it is a 50-foot wide lot and it's a corner lot. With that, the applicant is in the audience if there are any questions. Are there any questions for staff at this time? Actually, let me take you through the pictures. I keep forgetting that. That's looking at the property from Lemon Avenue towards the east and the existing single-family dwelling. Other houses in the neighborhood. And we'll get you to, this is the location of where the former garage was and where the applicant's looking to build back and across the street. Sorry about that.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fletcher, I just have one question. I think this is a reasonable request, with the staff's recommendation. My question really is on the size of the garage versus the size of the house. There's no issues with that?
No, it is smaller than the house, and it's less than 1,500 square feet.
Okay, that's fine. I just couldn't tell from the photo, so I didn't know if we need to address that. So, thank you.
Not seeing anyone else with questions or comments up here. If that's the case, I'd look for a motion then on this item. So Rachel made the motion to approve a variance to allow a 20-foot side yard setback. And the criteria that we're citing would be the unique nature of the lot, that it's a corner lot. Or if we could, is that a fair criteria to use on this variance?
Mr. Chair, I think that Fletcher summed it up correctly. The width of the lot is 50 feet, which is narrower than your standard 65-foot residential lot, and that the fact that it is a corner lot. I think it's also notable that he is trying to rebuild in an existing location, or a previous location, rather.
And we're not putting words in your mouth, Rachel. That speaks to your motion. Okay. Is there a second to Rachel's motion?
Second.
I'll give it to Karen this time. Karen seconded the motion. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I think that covers our agenda for Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'd look for a motion to adjourn Zoning Board of Adjustment. Karen made the motion to adjourn Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Mike seconded that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Chair,
Oh.
before you adjourn,
Yes.
this is the applicant here, and I realize that the item's already been voted on, but he would like an opportunity to speak to you. You could take a motion to reconsider the item if you felt that you
Okay.
wanted to.
Let's start just by hearing from you, sir. If you could identify yourself just for our record.
My name's Gary Black, and the reason I need a 15-foot variance, I had a gas line going through my garage. I had it moved, and I can't build over the garage or the gas line. So I got 11-foot and 15-foot to make my 24-foot garage. So I need the 15-foot, not 20. I'd be building on an existing foundation. That's what I need is 15 foot.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
If maybe we could bring up an
that's what I
overhead
was thinking
to
too.
allow everybody to get a clear picture of that. Vicky could probably help you show us that.
Here's the gas line.
So I'm just going to point out the gas line that he's just indicated to me. So this is the gas line that runs right here, and that would be on the south side of the proposed garage. So what I understood you to say is that right now you were proposing a 24-foot deep garage.
Yes.
And if you were to cut it off by 5 feet to provide a 20-foot setback, then the depth of the garage would be 19 feet.
And I can't get nothing in a 19-foot garage.
Just so that I think we're all clear with what his comment was.
Thank you. I believe I heard Vince say before Gary spoke that to make a motion to reconsider this item. Vince, is that correct? Okay. Justin?
Thanks. I guess I have two questions. One, is there an easement for that gas line existing?
It was just put in because it ran through my old garage. My old garage was about ready to fall down, so I had it moved
And that was my second question. Why did you tear down the old garage?
because it was about ready to fall down.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Vicki?
if that's just a service line for his property, then an easement would not be required.
Okay, it was odd that it ran right through where his old garage was. That's why I was curious if it was, but it sounds like it's a new gas line, old garage that was falling down. So then my question would be, obviously something wasn't thought through because the gas line could have been, or maybe it couldn't have been, I guess. Is that the only spot the gas line could have gone in? Could we have slid the gas line over? I get that it's in now, but if the gas line was another 5 feet towards your property line, then you could make the 20-foot setback. So what was the rationale for putting the gas line in where it's at?
That's where the gas line or gas company put it.
Okay. I guess a follow-up question then, maybe for staff or the city, is I get the concern about parking with a 15-foot setback and then having a truck or something hanging over the sidewalk. Is that, how is that just something that if it's a 15-foot setback we deal with? Or is there a way to enforce that if the truck is sitting there? Or, because I think that's not a good thing to have your truck hanging over the sidewalk. So how is that enforced?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki?
I'll ask Wade to correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe there's a city ordinance that says that you cannot park in such a fashion that you're blocking a pedestrian sidewalk. We see those in residential areas. If any of you are going for a walk in the evening, there's always those properties where you have to go out into the street around typically your longer pickups and such. So I believe that city regulations prohibit it at this time. Enforcing it, I just don't think that we have enough police staff to look at all of those violations that exist today. What we did find, though, was that we reduced setbacks to 18 feet in front of garages out in Red Rock Meadows as an experimental development to see if we could maximize the building footprint on some of these smaller lots, trying to reduce the cost to the future buyers. And in doing so, we received many complaints from property owners in the area that the vehicles were encroaching into the sidewalk. Planning Commission at that time, and Karen, you may recall this, directed staff not to support any reduction in a parking pad in front of a garage less than 20 feet. And so we've just been following that direction ever since.
Okay, thanks.
And if I could add to
Yes.
Fletcher's pictures, my trucks are on the sidewalk and in the road, in my front yard. And I got plenty of driveway for the 5-foot or 15-foot setback from the sidewalk. Because my driveway's deeper than the sidewalk.
What street is this on?
Lemon? And Fletcher's pictures showed the same thing.
So you're in the street right now parking
Over the sidewalk,
street.
just like that.
Well, I'm glad we had a chance to hear the comments you had, Mr. Black. It certainly clarifies the request. Unfortunately, we are in kind of a strange situation since we took action prior to hearing the comments. I guess I'm going to ask the commission again if there's a motion and then a second to reconsider this item, or if the commission wants to let their previous action stand. John Roberts, coming up as Jason Solomon on my
Thank you very
screen.
much. Well, and maybe Jason's supposed to be here, but since he isn't, this is very nice for me. First of all, since I missed half of the of what happened today. I just want to chime in and I want to say thank you for taking this property and doing what you've done to it so far. It is in my ward in North Rapid. This was a challenging property. I showed it to quite a few people before you bought it as a realtor, and it needed a lot of work. And if anybody knows, and I don't imagine too many people on this board spend a lot of time on Lemon Avenue in North Rapid, but Lemon Avenue has needed and had quite a bit of upgrades over the last 8 to 10 years. And it's really exciting for me when somebody comes into the neighborhood and buys a piece of property like this that is in huge need of repair. Like I said, I looked at it many times. The garage was literally falling down. Most of the conversations I had with my clients, we talked about taking the home completely down. So I know you had a challenge there, and you've done a good job with this. And I don't think that people should be, you know, the garage was existing before, and what they're going to do now is just upgrading the property. You know, I'm sure that if the garage could have been salvaged, you would have salvaged it. I know it had some huge foundation problems, and that's the reason that you took the garage down. But, you know, buying a piece of property in a challenging area, then trying to fix it up, and then being penalized by the city because you're trying to do the right thing. And it's not going to change the neighborhood. It's not going to change the makeup of the neighborhood. The only thing that this is going to do is increase people's values in this neighborhood because they're upgrading their home. So I think that, you know, every time we look at something like this, we really have to look at the background on it, what it's going to do to the neighborhood, what it has done to the neighborhood. And, you know, I hate to see people punished for trying to come into an area like this and upgrade these homes that most people won't even touch. And like I said, when I was looking at it with clients of mine as a realtor, we were looking at it as investment properties. You guys are living in the home?
Yes.
I would a lot rather have a homeowner in the home than renters, because I'm sure every one of you knows what happens when you get too many renters in one area. So, you know, this, like I said, challenging project for them. They took it on. I commend them for that, and I think they're going to be a benefit to the neighborhood. But I hate to see them, and I like I said, I hate to see them punished for doing the right thing, but we're not changing the makeup of the neighborhood. It was there before. The only difference is now it's new. So, thank you.
Thank you. That was some good comments. Rachel?
Yeah, I think you made some really good points, you know, about we do really have to consider the makeup of the neighborhood, you know, what folks have been doing with their property. I think that's, you know, it's quite an undertaking to try to improve a property like that. And I have lived in neighborhoods like that. I think another thing we really need to consider is that in neighborhoods maybe where the property values are lower, you also have a lot more kids unsupervised hanging out and riding on the sidewalks and things like that. And that's, you know, if it was just a matter of, you know, this setback versus that setback, I would say unequivocally, let's let them, you know, reduce the setback. But I am kind of concerned about, you know, when my kids are out on the sidewalks and they have to kind of go out in the street, or there's no space between the end of a, you know, a truck or something like that, and they have to go around. You know, I think safety is a big deal too, and so that's why, you know, this is a really tough one, because obviously you want to be able to say yes, but I just can't be persuaded by that.
May I add one thing? If I had a garage, why would my stuff be parked on the sidewalk? What's that?
I'm going to move to another commissioner who's got a light up. We'll come back to you, Mr. Black, if we
Okay.
got Mike Kwasny.
Was there an option to put that gas line in a different spot, I guess? And why did they put it in? Did they just put this gas line in?
A month ago, 2 months ago.
Okay, at the time that they put it in, did you have a plan for the garage?
No.
The gas line in the old garage was built up a wall, across the ceiling, and down the other wall. It was not underground. And so when they came in, they said that that's where they had to put it in order to go from the alley to the house.
So maybe I need to ask staff, is there an option for them to put the gas line differently? And I guess we're stuck on the gas line, and maybe the gas line is the problem, and it should have been done differently in the first place if the plan was to put the garage in.
Excuse me, the only other option for them would have been to come down, go past the driveway, under the driveway, back this way into the house.
Maybe, can we have a overhead? Just so I want to make sure we're clear on what you're explaining, ma'am.
Let's just pull this up here.
I do commend you for fixing up the house. I did own a house on Lemon Street many years ago, and that neighborhood has some opportunities. Lived in it, but I think it's great that we're developing this more.
So you can draw with this pen, and if you would show the other option of where that gas line would have had to have gone that you just identified.
Oh gosh, I'm not good with doing this. Do you want me to do it?
I don't know where it was going to go. That was your department.
Okay.
I think it was right through here. Then
Is that the garage there? That's the alley, okay. That's the garage. Yeah, from here, that's the alley.
that's it.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Vicki?
the question earlier that was posed to staff, could this gas line be relocated? It doesn't necessarily go through the city as a part of that, but any of our property owners that are looking at doing backyard projects, and we call for the utility locate, if something's interfering with even landscaping that we're doing or the location of an accessory structure, you can work with that utility company in relocating that. I think that the misfortune here is that while these folks were having their service line improved, that the project for the proposed garage wasn't on the table for them to sit down with that team and have that discussion with them at that time.
Thanks, Vicki. Kurt?
Grab that.
Well, looking at that aerial photo, the sidewalk is curbside, so 15 feet, you wouldn't be overhanging in the sidewalk anyway, would you?
No, that's what I said earlier. I wouldn't have any problem hanging over the sidewalk.
Okay, thanks.
Justin?
Thanks. So I agree with John's points wholeheartedly, and I don't want to not say you can't build your garage. However, I do think, back to my original point, and Mike kind of reiterated it, was I do think some planning could have put the gas line in a better location. And so I'm going to suggest maybe that, is there an opportunity to go back to the gas company, see what that would look like to do, and have them slide it over 5 feet? Because you've got 11, you said it's 11 feet off your property line. Is there not a reason they can't? If they could have moved it another 15 feet to the north, why can't they have moved it another 5 or 8 feet to the south? And then that's out of your way, and then you put your garage 20-foot setback, and it's all good. Is that an option to look at, to provide the homeowner with an opportunity to go back and ask that question, see what that looks like, and then go from there? And then you kind of, I guess, we meet our criteria and staff's recommendations, but don't prevent you from building a garage, because I don't think we should do that either.
Well, I don't think it's an option to move the gas line. You know, you're talking money, and I'm not made of it.
I understand that wholeheartedly, but I just, again, I think it happened a month ago, and this garage probably was planned, at least planned a month ago, and it's unfortunate that this conversation didn't happen prior to the gas line going in. But is there a way to have that conversation and see what that looks like?
If I may say, the gas line went in before we got the thing that we couldn't build
It's
there.
been like 2 or 3 months ago.
Right,
The gas
correct.
line went in.
No, I understand that and I appreciate that. It's just, it's,
When-
there's parameters we have to look at and stay within, and I think there's a way to still let you build your garage and stay within those parameters. It may require a little bit extra work now, unfortunately, I get that, to talk to MDU and see if they can't slide that gas line over. Because I think that, again, had this conversation happened 3 months ago, we weren't even sitting here really talking about it. It would have been a slam dunk yes, because the gas line would have been put in appropriately. So, to me, these variances, when there's an option to approve it within city's recommendations and cities, and what we kind of normally typically do in these situations, if there's an option to do that, I think we should look at that first. If there was no option, I would say, okay, let's really start thinking about it. But there's an option to move the gas line, albeit there's money involved, I totally get that, but I think we should look at that first, and maybe give the homeowner a couple weeks to look into that, and then come back and rediscuss it.
Another thing, if I move back 5 more feet, I'll be off my 8 foot off the other property line. Yes, I will. I'm 11 foot right now. I'll move it back 5 more foot.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki?
The site plan that was submitted shows it's 14 feet off that lot line. So if you move it back 5, that'll still leave 9. So you'd be okay with your south, just based on what you submitted. And it's also important, a couple other things. The site plan that we received with the application doesn't show a gas line, or we may have included that in our review too. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you folks realized that you needed a demolition permit to take down the garage.
No.
And the garage was taken down, and then he comes back in to rebuild. And we would have preferred that before that old garage was taken down, that we'd had all of these conversations. And again, it goes just into the planning. I appreciate that they didn't realize that they couldn't demolish a structure without a demolition permit, and certainly hindsight being 2020, in making the improvements to the property, it would have been great if the gas company would have been aware that the gas line should have been relocated. What I'm going to encourage, though, is just so that we have fully vetted this, I'm not hearing from the Zoning Board of Adjustment that they're going to reconsider their motion unless concurrence that you folks would visit with the gas company to see what it would take to relocate it, and maybe there's other issues why they can't. And then if we were to have a motion to reconsider it, and they continued it for 2 weeks, and then you come back and disclose what the gas company's comments were, then they would make their final decision at that time. Would that be something you would be willing to do?
No, I'm gonna build the garage. I don't care what anybody in this room does to me. I'm gonna build, I've tried doing everything legal. Now I'm getting disciplined for trying to improve my property. I just don't understand it.
May I say one thing about the gas line? Because that seems to be the big issue. When the old garage was torn down, that gas line was a hazard as far as children wanting to swing on it. So the gas company was in a big hurry to get that underground. And that was before we realized that we could not build over it. So the gas company was there. I talked to the gentleman. He said, "Are you wanting to build a garage here?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because the existing foundation of the old garage was still there." They said, "Okay, we're going to run this gas line right here, but we ask that you not build over the gas line. And that was before this new garage plan was made. So we tried to accommodate the gas company by redoing the garage and not putting it back on the old foundation.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki.
If we could have you identify yourself for the records.
I'm sorry, I'm Virginia McLeod. I'm co-owner of this property. Thank you.
Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, with all due respect, I do appreciate your time and your efforts here, and I think Justin came up with something that I think is reasonable for us to help you. And it's a matter of working with the gas company or even talking to them. If they shut you down, they shut you down. I mean, we want to know that, but we don't know that right now. So we're asking you to take another step, and so that maybe we can postpone these issues. I did have one question. The garage is demolished, so is there a foundation there right now where the old garage was?
I'm using two existing foundations, two of the existing foundations.
So looking at that right now, the gas company would probably have to destroy some of that foundation.
No, they were already bored underneath the foundation, and they had to bore 10 foot to get to my house
Okay.
from the garage.
Right. Okay, I just hope that you consider what Justin was proposing here, in that you give us something else, if you could, please.
Well, to a certain extent, it's up to us at this point. We have a vote taken, a decision made on item 2. Again, the question is, do we want to reopen this? And I guess I'm again asking, is there a motion and a second for reopening item number 2? Justin?
I'll make a motion to reopen it, and then I don't know if I can piggyback on that with a motion to shelve it for a couple of weeks to allow the conversation with the gas company. Because I agree with Vince, and again, what we're trying to do here is not shut you down, but I think there's a reasonable way to make this work for everybody. We have to follow, there's certain ordinances in place for a reason. There's a process to this all, and it's unfortunate that, again, this conversation didn't happen up front, which it should have, and that's hindsight I get. So I think we're trying to do something reasonable. All we're asking from you is to do the same and not just ignore it. Because I think in the long run, if we're able to do this, it might be a little bit of money. I don't know what the cost would be. The gas company's going to have to tell you that. But I think it's reasonable to allow you the opportunity to go do something and find out some more information to bring to us to allow us to make an educated decision. So I'd like to make the motion to reconsider. And then I don't know how to go from there.
I think we got to do one at a time.
Okay. I'll make the
mostly
motion to
for me
reconsider.
to keep track of it. So Justin's made a motion to reconsider item number 2. Rachel seconded that motion. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Now, Justin, if you'd like to make another motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Continue.
Continue till next.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
If I could help the motion maker. So is the motion to continue to the August 9th Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to allow the property owner to visit with the gas company and bring back information specific to what it would take to relocate that gas line in order to meet a 20-foot setback?
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Second. Mike Kwasny seconded. And discussion on this motion to continue, and the date was August 9th. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your comments today, Mr. Black and Virginia. We do appreciate it. We hope to see you again on August 9th.
It's going to cost $800.
All right, thank you.
I guess now I'd look for the motion to adjourn the zoning board of adjustment meeting. Rachel made the motion to adjourn, and I think I heard Kurt second that motion. Sure. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for sticking with us. We will now commence the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for July 26, 2018. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, please turn in a speaker request form, fill it out, and hand it to the staff. Consent calendar. Items 1 through 12 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 7, 18 PD 022. Item 10, 18 PD 023. And item 11, 18 UR 006. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 12 that staff would like removed? Any items 1 through 12 that any planning commissioner would like removed? And are there any items 1 through 12 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 12 in accordance with staff's recommendations. Mike Goller made the motion to approve. Is there a second? Karen seconded that motion. And any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13.
Thank you. Item number 13 is an initial and final plan development application for the property at 522 Anamosa Street. The property has an existing and established church, and the church would like to expand to a 9-unit retreat center and associated garage in the property. It's part of a plan development designation, so this would trigger the initial and final plan development application along with the exception with the property. With that, let's start the presentation. The property, as I mentioned, is located at 522 Anamosa Street. It is zoned office commercial and is sized at 1.85 acres. It is part of a plan development designation, and the purpose of the initial and final plan development application is for a 9-unit retreat center to house seasonal workers for mission trips and service trips to the Pine Ridge Reservation. Okay. This is an aerial photo of the existing site. The church and parking lot are currently located on the southeast side of the lot, and the proposed development area for the garage and the retreat center will be on the northwest corner of the lot. Future land use for the property identifies a low-density neighborhood within which churches are in conditional use and their accessory uses as well. Major street plan identifies Anamosa Street as a minor arterial. Access for the property would be off of Atlas Street, which is a local road. So I mentioned the exception with the application. This is an overview of the site as it exists today with the existing church and parking lot. On the southeast corner of the lot, the proposed retreat center will be on the north end along with the associated garage. Currently there are 56, let's see if we can get that, 56 existing parking stalls on the existing hardscape for the parking lot. The applicant has proposed to add an additional 6 spaces up here on the northeast side of the lot and 1 ADA van accessible space on the northeast side of the lot. Rapid City Municipal Code stipulates that any parking areas that are at 50 stalls or greater have a landscape island installed. In this case, staff reviewed the proposal and determined that with the additional parking being segmented away from the existing hardscape and the addition of landscaping on the west side of the church and an additional buffer to the south of the proposed retreat center, that in this case, they would not retroactively initiate a landscape island to be improved on the existing lot. So staff's recommendation would be to support the exception to waive the requirement to install one landscape island on the lot. This is just a further view of the landscape proposed for the development. So as I mentioned, there will be an additional green space buffer added to the west side of the church here, and segmented parking off with landscape between the proposed parking spaces and the proposed development. The garage will be 900 square feet and approximately 16 feet in height, and it will just serve as accessory uses for work supplies and so forth for mission trips. And the proposed retreat center will be, again, a 9-unit facility, 27 feet in height and approximately 2,600 square feet. I was able to visit the site this week, and these are some of the site photos. So this is looking directly east from Atlas Street at the existing church and parking lot. This is a shot to the northeast looking at the proposed development area. A view north along Atlas Street, and as part of this development, the extension of a 5-foot sidewalk up to the proposed garage would be installed on that side with Atlas Street. A view to the south along Atlas Street. And this is a view to the west looking at the existing apartment units across Atlas. This is a view along Anamosa Street looking to the east. And then finally, there is an existing sign along Anamosa Street for the church. That won't be changing as part of this application. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. And we also have the applicant's consultant here if you have any questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki.
Staff's recommendation is to approve with stipulations. One of those stipulations being that we are recommending that the exception to waive the landscape island be granted.
Okay. I don't have any requests up. Anybody have any questions or comments on this one? What? Karen made the motion to approve item number 13 per the staff recommendations. Mike Kwasny seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Item 14.
Good morning, Sarah Hansel, Long Range Planning Division. Item number 14 is the proposed ordinance for accessory dwelling units in residential areas. The staff recommendation today is to continue this item to August 23rd. We are continuing to look at some of the criteria that is in the ordinance, making sure that we're striking that correct balance between the ability that someone would have to be able to develop an accessory dwelling unit on their property and also ensuring compatibility with the neighborhood. We're just taking a look at that criteria a little bit further, and we'd like to bring the ordinance back on August 23rd.
Thanks, Sarah. Is there a motion on this one? Mike Kwasny made the motion to continue this item till August 23rd. Rachel seconded that. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items? Looks like we have a couple.
So we wanted to remind everyone that Coffee with Planners is August 2nd in this room, starting at 9 o'clock. We're going to take a little different format this time. We're going to have individual tables with planners having topics of discussion at each table so that you sit down, join us, contribute, and then move on to another table, or maybe you're just interested in one or two topics and you stay at those tables. So that we encourage as many of you as possible to attend. You have, and some of you have in the past, and that's very beneficial for us when you do.
Sounds great. August 2nd. What time is that? 9 o'clock, I think.
Yep, so that's Thursday rather than Wednesday. We've been holding them on Wednesdays, but this time it'll be on a Thursday morning.
Okay.
Just wanted to do a quick recap. We wanted to thank those of you who were able to attend our special work session with the City Council on July the 12th, where we had discussion about granting exceptions and granting variances. And it is the variances topic that mostly involves the Planning Commission. We did propose some additional language for our ordinance where the criteria for granting an ordinance, a variance is listed, and we reviewed and discussed that a little bit. It was the opinion of the Planning Commission, City Council at that time that they would entertain that proposal, so we will be bringing forward some additional criteria, just tightening up the requirement a little bit. The basic level or threshold that would need to be met in order for a variance to be granted. So you'll be seeing that coming forward shortly. But again, we thank you, those of you who were able to come, and we do have a slide presentation for anybody who was unable to come that we can forward that to you if you're interested.
John?
This is on the dwelling units.
Oh.
I think we need to really look at what covenants call for in certain areas, and maybe use a language like, if your covenants allow it, so that we don't get in that battle where we're saying, okay, people can rent out their garage or whatever, and it doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't, the areas don't want that. So at least let's look at it. I know we don't enforce covenants, but we don't show them any respect either. That's my point.
Thanks, John. I'll chime in on the second one, the variances. I didn't make that meeting, but I did get the slideshow and associated info, and I would encourage anybody else who was in my boat and vacationing instead of working to do that, because it's very helpful.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention to John's comments in regards to covenants. I think that's something we'll look at from a legal perspective. You're correct in saying that we don't really have jurisdiction over covenants. Perhaps some reference to them could be warranted. I don't know. We will take a look at that. But it is good to note that covenants are above and beyond city requirements.
Anything else from the commission, from staff for today? If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. All right, Karen, thank you. Karen made the motion to adjourn. Kurt seconded that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.